The Babysitter by KB HURST. The lights were all on at 165 Elm Street, my childhood home. Mom and Dad were going out. My mom kissed me on the forehead. I didn't want to be stuck at home with a babysitter. She and my dad were going to see the latest Jason Statham movie, and I wasn't quite old enough to see it. When I was an older boy, she had told me I could see it, but at 9 years old, I'd have to wait. My mother said the new babysitter would be an acceptable replacement since Susie, our previous babysitter, had gone off to college. A pizza was on the way, and my mother was putting in her earrings while waiting for the babysitter. It was someone that her best friend Gilda had recommended. Finally, the doorbell rang, and the person at the door was now in the house. My mother yelled, "Jake, Devin's here." Devin, I guessed, was our new babysitter. When I got downstairs, my mother gave him instructions about the pizza and where things were in case of an emergency. Soon my dad was running downstairs with barely a goodbye. Devin stood in the doorway and watched as they left. He not even turned around to introduce himself with some corny joke, like all babysitters when they were nervous. Devin finally turned and walked into the living room. He plopped down, putting his feet on the coffee table, and turned the television on. He still hadn't even said anything to me. I went into the living room and stood in the doorway. "Are you going to say hi?" The young man said nothing. I noticed he looked a bit older than a teenager, but I only noticed because he was wearing what looked to be a one-piece uniform with the words "maintenance" on the back. "You're Jake. Pizza's on the way. Why don't you go upstairs till it comes? I want to watch TV in peace." He was speaking in a monotone manner. He pulled out his phone, and he kept an eye on it. At that moment, I wished my mom and dad would need a reason to return. Something was off with this guy. I wonder why my friend Jamie's mom, Gilda, had recommended him at all. Being a guy babysitter, I thought he'd at least be cool and want to play with me. "Fine, let me know when the pizza comes," I said, strolling back upstairs. As I went, I noticed Devin watching me as I walked up the stairs. I got into my room and pulled out my walkie-talkie. My best friend Jamie lived next door, and he had the other walkie-talkie. Since we weren't old enough to have cell phones, Jamie's grandpa gave him his old set of walkie-talkies. I turned mine on, turning the volume down so Devin couldn't hear. "Jamie, this is Jake. Over," I said, mimicking what I thought you were supposed to say based on movies I had seen. Static. Suddenly the doorbell rang, and I figured that it was the pizza. I opened my door and went downstairs, but stopped when I saw Devin. He stood holding the pizza in his hand and looked at me expressionless before his mouth spread out in a creepy smile. "Pizza's here," he said as he turned and walked into the kitchen. Devin weirded me out, but the smell of the pizza made me forget long enough to rush down and into the kitchen. Devin was piling a few slices on his plate, but he added so much that when I got to the kitchen, there were only 2 pieces left. First come, first serve. Devin was a jerk. From when he had arrived until now, I had surmised that. He was just here for his big payout at the night's end. Whatever, fine with me. I grabbed the last 2 slices and turned to go back upstairs. "Hey," Devin shouted. "Yeah?" "Don't run in the house." I rolled my eyes and I went back upstairs. This guy was a complete jerk, no fun like Susie had been. I was in my room for more than maybe 10 seconds when I heard my walkie-talkie go off. It was Jamie. "Hey, Jake? Over," he was saying, but I could barely make out the rest of what he said. Over?" More static. "Jamie, you there?" There was only static. I walked over to my bedroom window and opened it. My window was directly across from his, and I noticed that his bedroom was dark. Seeing as how I had just heard Jamie talking to me, I thought it was kind of odd. At that exact moment, the door to my bedroom creaked open. Then my door began to slowly open wide, and I assumed Devin was doing it. "What do you want, man?" I asked. I was getting very annoyed. But there was no response. I stood up and opened the door, looking down the hallway. I noticed the lights from the downstairs were all off. Avoiding the mild fear I had suddenly brewing beneath my chest, my breath quickened. Walking down the hall toward the top of the stairs, the hallway seemed longer than before. I figured it was because I was scared and it made everything seem less mundane. I cautiously approached the stairs, going down 2 or 3 stairs at a time. "Devin?" I went down a few more stairs when I noticed the front door to the house was wide open. I turned to look over the railing at the sofa where Devin had been earlier. There was no one there. Devin, it appeared, was now gone. Where could he have gone? I ran downstairs and slammed the front door shut, locking it. Then I heard my walkie-talkie go off in my room. I ran back upstairs and into my bedroom. It, too, was now dark. Jamie, you there? Over?" I yelled into the communication device. I was scared now. I decided maybe I should go next door to Jamie's house. Something had been off about Devin all night. I didn't know what sort of game he was playing. I just knew I didn't feel safe. I began to go down the stairs again, when all of a sudden, I noticed the lights came back on. I looked around and saw someone coming through the front door. To my shock, it was my mother and father. "Jake?" My mother was screaming for me. Behind my mother was a police officer. When she saw me, she ran to hug me. "Are you all right?" she was asking. "Yes. Where's Devin? Why are you back already?" I was asking. The police officer went to look around, and soon there were other officers swarming the house and the neighborhood. Jamie's mom noticed Devin when he went outside to retrieve the pizza and realized it wasn't the sitter she had recommended to my mom. When she texted my mom asking if she had gotten a new sitter, she said no and immediately called the police. Devin was not even the real man's name, whoever he was. Devin, the real sitter, had mistakenly double booked by accident. His confusion arose because a woman living at 156 Elm Street, the same number as our address, only reversed, because ours was 165 Elm Street. She had also asked him to babysit. She had sent him her address and a photo of her and her daughter to show it was a legit job. When Jamie's mom asked Devin if he could babysit at 165 Elm Street, he assumed she had misquoted the address and went ahead and agreed, thinking it was the same mother and daughter. That was until he realized someone must have targeted him, because he had lost his phone the same morning when he was at the gym. The police searched for the man, but it wasn't until the next day when a woman and her young daughter were found dead in their home at, you guessed it, 156 Elm Street. They put 2 and 2 together. There was a man that had targeted us, thinking it was the house with the mother and daughter in the photo. The mother that had texted the real Devin. It wasn't until the police went to his residence the following morning about the murders that Devin, the real Devin, even realized that the murderer might have stolen his phone. He must have seen Jamie's mother text about 165 Elm Street and came to our house by mistake. When he realized his mistake, he left off to go to 156 Elm Street. To this day, the killer's still at large. My family moved away since, but it's one of those things that's always haunted me. Thanks for listening, everyone. I thought this short story would be a little bit of a break from my series, The Beast of the Field, and some of the other series I have been doing lately. Sometimes it's nice to just listen to one story and be done. Sometimes it's nice to write one story and just be done. So thank you again for listening, and have a great week.